This is a video tutorial for the Happy Days Florence Tote Bag. It has a recessed zip and this is how you make it. And this is what you'll need: fabric for the outer, fabric for the lining and a 16-inch nylon zip. And this is how you make it. We'll start making the recessed zipper. Take your zipper panel and fold it in half, right sides together, and crease, and then get some clips and clip along the short edges. And then take it over to your sewing machine and use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Start there and sew all the way down to the bottom, and again start there and all the way down to the bottom, and repeat this for the other zipper panel. I've sewn along each side and I've snipped each corner, and now I'm going to turn it the right way out. I've turned them the right way out and I've ensured that the corners are all pushed out, and I've pressed it. Now we're working on the zipper tabs. Take one of your tab fabrics and fold it in half, right sides together, and press. Fold over the top edge by 1 centimetre on both sides and pop some clips in. And then take it over to your sewing machine and sew 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way down and all the way down there. I've sewn along both sides and I've clipped the corners, and now I'm going to turn it the right way around. I've turned them both and I've pressed them, and now we're going to attach them to the zipper. Take your zipper and trim just above the metal stoppers each side, as I have done. Once you've cut off the top, measure 40 centimetres and draw a line across. Sew a 1/4 inch above that line and sew across. I've sewn across and I've cut off along the line the excess fabric. Now take your little tabs you made earlier and pop one on each end. They are a little bit fiddly, so take your time, and when you're happy with where they are, pop a couple of pins in place and repeat for the other side. When you do put the tab on this side, make sure that your zipper pull is pulled down a little bit. It'll make it a lot easier. And then when you've popped your pins in, take it over the sewing machine and just sew across there and across there. I've sewn along with that side and that side. Now we're going to attach the zipper to the zipper panels. I'm using zipper tape. It's something that I always use when I'm putting zips in, but it is optional. Iron your zipper tape along the folded edge. Make sure that this edge is always left open. Now place your zipper with the zipper pulls right sides together, so your pull is at the bottom and touching the zipper panel. Line up the edges and then press. If you're not using zipper tape, there's no need to press. Simply place your zip, again right sides together on top, and again line up all the top edges and use a few clips to keep it into place. Pop your zipper foot on and then sew all along there and stop. I've sewn all along there, and now I'm going to open it out, take it over to the ironing board and press. I've turned it the right way around and I've pressed it, and I've also top stitched all along there. Now take your other zipper panel and place your zipper tape, if you're using it, along your folded edge and place it on top. Match up the side seams and the top edges, and again if you're using zipper tape you can press it into place and this will stick it onto your zip, and if not, use lots of clips. Once you've clipped it or pressed it into place, carefully turn it over, take it over to your sewing machine, and as we did before, pop your zipper foot on and sew all along there and stop. I've sewn all along there, and now I'm going to open it out, take it over to the iron and press open. That's your recessed zipper part of the bag all finished, and we'll put this to one side while we work on the outer of the bag. Now we're going to work on the handles. Place your handle fabric right sides down, fold in half and press. Open out and then place this edge on that centre crease line you've made and press again, and do the same for this side. Bring it into the centre where the crease is and press, and then fold over and give it one last press, and then pop a few clips in. Just to keep it in place while you're sewing it. And then take it over to your sewing machine and top stitch all along the one edge and all along the other one, and then press again. Repeat the procedure for both straps. Place one of your outer fabrics right sides up and measure a point 9 centimetres in, and again this side 9 centimetres in, and make a mark. Next, take one of your straps and, using your mark you've made, attach your handle on the edge and clip into place. There. Make sure it doesn't get twisted as you turn it, and do the same for that side. Use your mark. And clip. You can always check with your ruler that you've got it right before you sew. And once you're happy with where the straps are, take them over to the sewing machine and just tack quite close to the edge just to keep them in place, and then repeat for the other side. Now we're going to attach the zipper panel. Find the centre of your bag and pop a mark, and do the same for the zipper panel. Make a mark and then match those marks up, and ensure that the raw edge of your zipper panel and the raw edge of your top of your bag are at the top. And when you're happy with where they are, you can check again with your ruler if you want to. Pop some clips across the top. Now I've clipped it into place, I'm going to take it over the sewing machine and I'm going to sew all along there and stop. Use 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now take your remaining outer piece and place it on top of the other outer piece with the zipper panel on, and place it right sides together on top. Make sure that they all line up there, all the raw edges, and they line up at the side as well. And when you're happy with that, again pop some clips across. I've clipped it and I'm going to turn it over carefully. And then starting there, using 1/4 inch seam allowance as we did before, sew all along there, joining the other zipper panel onto the outer of the bag. Once you've sewn your zipper panels on, this is what it'll look like. The next stage now is to join it all together. So pull your zip down as I've done, about halfway, and now we're going to flip this side onto this side. I've lined up the side edges, the bottom edges, and I've popped clips along. I'm going to take it over the sewing machine, and this time I'm going to use 1/2 inch seam allowance, and I'm going to start there and I'm going to sew all the way down to there and stop. I will not be sewing here at the moment, and then I'm going to start again there along the bottom and sew all the way down and stop, again missing out the box corners, and then I'm going to start again there and sew right to the top and stop. Now we're going to box the corners. Open up the corners and pull slightly apart, and then match the bottom seam and the side seam together. Line up the edges. Oops. And then put a few clips along. And do the same for the other side. Once you've clipped your boxed corners into place, take them over to the sewing machine and use 1/4 inch seam allowance. Sew all along there and stop, and along there and stop. That's your box corners all finished. Now we're going to leave the bag this way round while we work on the lining. Place your 2 lining fabrics right sides together. Line up all the sides and the bottom of the edges, and then clip into place, remembering to leave a gap at the bottom for turning. Once you've clipped it, we're going to take it over the sewing machine and start in there using 1/2 inch seam allowance. Sew all the way down there and stop, along the bottom and stop, start again there and stop, and then back up to the top and stop. Once you've sewn all the way around, it's time to box the corners as we did before. So open up the box corner and line up this bottom seam and this side seam together and pop a clip in. Pop another one that side, and another one this side, and repeat for the other side. And then, as we did before, we'll take it over the sewing machine, use 1/4 inch seam allowance, sew all the way across. I've boxed the corners and I've turned the lining the right way out. A bit unusual for what we normally do, but in this instance this is what we're going to do. Now take the outer of the bag that you made earlier and make sure that the zipper panel and the handles are facing inwards, and then we're going to put the lining inside the outer, right sides together. I've clipped the lining to the outer, and now I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and use a 1/2 inch seam allowance, sew all the way around. Take your time, all the way around, joining the lining to the outer. I've sewn all the way around, and now I'm going to put it the right way by pulling it through the gap we left in the lining. I've turned it the right way, and now I'm going to sew up the gap that I left in the lining, and once I've done that I'm going to tuck this lining inside the bag. The last bit of sewing is to top stitch, and to do that we push the zipper panel down and press. Make sure that your lining underneath is nice and flat as well as you iron it. And when you're happy with how you've pressed it, you could put a few clips in just to keep it in place. Now I've put lots of clips in. I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine. I'm going to start there and top stitch all the way around. All the way around till we get back to the beginning. And that's your Florence tote bag all finished.